Heyo, it's Cruising Kyle. Today we're going to talk about renting equipment for the first time. That involves what kind of gear you're looking for, what you need to know before you go, and good questions that you need to ask while you're at the rental shop. I'm also going to feature in a couple of interviews at some rental shops here in Flagstaff, Arizona. So, what kind of gear are you looking for? Doesn't matter if you need boots, board, helmet, jacket, you can rent whatever gear you want. What you're looking for is gear that fits and is comfortable. You need gear that is relatively in good condition, and typically gear that has good reviews online. Now, what do you need to know before going to the rental shop? You need to know when you need the rentals, where you're getting the rentals from, how long you're going to use those rentals, and the price. Budgeting is very important here. Obviously, you need to have some idea and plan your trip when you're going and where you're going to be going to. But you need to do a little bit of homework and look at the different rental shops near that mountain or in that town. Most places now have websites and you can at least look up where they are and when they're open. However, most places will show you pricing for different rentals. Typically, the prices are day to day. If it says it's going to cost you $25 to rent a pair of snowboard boots, that is $25 for the snowboard boots only for one day. However, some places will offer bundles, so you can save a little bit of money if you already know that you're going to need 2 or 3 things. Sometimes they'll offer weekend deals, and some places even give you season rentals, which I would say is worth considering. If you spend $80 for one day on rentals, and you're doing that 2 days, so a whole weekend, 3 weekends out of the year, you're paying, around $300 for those rentals. Whereas if you get a season rental for $150 or $200, then you're saving about $100, and it's the same equipment because you keep it for the whole season, which can be really useful in determining what kind of gear you want and where you want to go with your snowboarding. Now, while you're at the rental shop, some good things you need to do are ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can. Ask any and all questions you have. Don't worry about being the annoying customer. Don't worry about asking dumb questions. Rental places get a lot of first-timers, so they're used to hearing the weird and out-of-the-blue questions. They're used to answering questions for first-timers. That is part of their job description, is to help you get going on your adventure. If you do ask a question that catches them off guard, totally out of the blue, then you're just doing a good job of helping them become a better employee. So please ask any and all questions you have. And that includes questions about sales and deals and bundles and all of that. If you can save money somewhere, save money somewhere. Sometimes their websites don't get updated as regularly as they want to, or they just started a sale and haven't had time to update the website. So if you don't ask, you won't know. Now, another thing you need to do is once you're looking at gear and you think you've got the gear you want, you need to try everything on in store. Boots vary in size by brand. A pair of size 9 in 32s versus a size 9 in Vans versus a size 9 in Solomon are all going to be a little bit different in the way they fit and the way they feel. Just like no one's ever truly a size 9 because all of our feet are a little different. So it's really important to try that on. And then once you have the boots that fit right and you've got the board, again, try that board on. Feel the stance. Ask them to make adjustments, because making adjustments in the store will help a ton. They know the right kind of adjustments to make. They can give you some advice. If you're like, hey, this feels a little funky, should it feel that way? Then they can tell you, yes, it totally should feel that way. That's a good feeling. That's what you want. Or, no, you shouldn't be feeling discomfort there. Let me adjust something for you. If you do it all there in the shop before you really agree to rent it, then you know you're not going to have too many problems with your equipment. The last thing you need to do is read the fine print of your rental agreement. Usually it includes insurance policies. So what happens if I lose my snowboard, if I break my boots, if someone steals my equipment? That's all in the rental agreement. And while you certainly don't need to read every single word, you don't just want to glance right over it. You want to actually sit down and kind of read what the policies are and what's covered and what's not, and if you're going to have to pay extra money or pay for the gear or any of that kind of stuff. Now, most insurance comes with a charge, but it's usually pretty cheap, in between $3 to $12. It's also a good idea to take a picture or ask for a copy of the rental agreement so you have it on hand. Yeah, it's one of those things, the more you know, the better. Just keep yourself in the loop, keep yourself knowledgeable. That's going to help your peace of mind if one of those situations does happen. The last thing we're going to talk about is good questions to ask. When I go in to rent gear or buy gear, the first thing I always ask when I'm looking is, what kind is it? If I'm looking at a snowboard, what kind of snowboard is this? They will tell you the brand, the model, they might describe its shape to you, they might tell you how stiff it is, or how much pop it has, or what the edges do, that kind of stuff. And even if you don't know what to do with that information, that's okay. That's helping you get a feel for what you need to look at in your equipment the next time you go, or what you can look up online. You can certainly ask them to clarify any of that information in store as well. It's also worth it to look at this gear versus that gear. Look at the low end of the spectrum. This is the cheap gear that maybe might not be as nice but works. Versus the high end of the spectrum. This is, you're paying $1,000 just for the board because it's so nice, or you're renting that board for $200 for 2 days, which seems crazy, but it's a really nice setup. You want to ask those questions because even though you're typically going to go towards the lower side because it is much cheaper, and as a beginner you certainly wouldn't know what to do with that more expensive equipment or why you would need it, it's good to ask those questions because, again, you're looking for information that's part of why you're going to the rental shop. Maybe you're curious and you want to know, why is that board so expensive? What part of that board's performance makes people want it so much? You also want to ask about its reviews. If you haven't looked it up at all, be like, hey, what do other people think about this equipment? Do people like it? Is there a lot of problems with it? That kind of stuff. Typically, rental shops will be honest with you, and if it's on the lower end, they'll be like, nah, people don't really say things. Sometimes we get some people that complain and some people that really like it, but it's just your basic snowboard. It's just going to work for a beginner. And then, just for fun, I always ask, if I was going to buy, what do you recommend? I usually tell them my riding style, how long I've been riding, what type of riding I'm doing. Are you doing all mountain? Are you mainly doing tricks? Are you just starting out and you're a beginner and you know nothing? Because then, they get to do a little bit of promotion for themselves. You get a little more information about the subject. It's just kind of fun to window shop. So those are some kind of basic questions to get the process started. Certainly ask any and all questions you can. You don't have to ask those questions specifically, but those are just some general guideline questions to get you thinking of what you need or want to ask of your rental shops. Now, I'm going to use Arizona as a reference because I live in Arizona. There are rental shops here in Flagstaff, 30 minutes away from Snowball, which is the main ski area in Arizona. And there are rental shops in Phoenix, which is about a 2.5-hour drive away. Now, a lot of our customers come from Phoenix, and they'll rent from Phoenix, drive all the gear up, ski or snowboard, drive all the way back down, and turn it back in. And while I don't want to discredit any of the Phoenix rental shops, I would say your best bet is to rent in the town or at the mountain that you're going to be skiing at. Part of the reason for that is because the closer they are to the ski resort, the more in touch they are, the more up to date they have to be. Typically, the more their employees go skiing and snowboarding themselves, they're going to be more in touch with what the current equipment is and how beginners typically learn and what kind of stuff they need to have to get going. If you rent from someplace that's out of town, then you don't know how out of date their equipment is. You don't know how often their employees go skiing or snowboarding. You don't know if it's just some random Joe Schmo who's never been skiing or snowboarding in his life and is trying to give you advice. And it's not to say that, all the places do that. It's just typically a better bet to rent from the town or mountain that you're going to be in. Because there are lots of places here in Flagstaff to rent from, I've booked a couple of interviews, and let's go talk to some rental shops. Alright, so we are here at Peace Surplus. I am interviewing Ollie, who is in charge of their rental shop. Ollie, I've got a couple questions for you. First one off the bat, what is your most commonly asked question when people come in to rent gear?
I would say people ask whether I think they should ski or snowboard, or which one I think is better, I guess. Or they just ask how the conditions are on the mountain.
So, this is Josh with Ski Haus, a local rental shop here in town, and I'm just going to ask you a couple questions.
Perfect.
So, what is the most commonly asked question you get when people come in to rent gear?
The most common is it easier to ski or is it easier to snowboard?
Is there a difference between renting from a shop versus renting on the mountain?
So mainly renting from a shop, you're just going to save money. One nice thing about renting at a shop is that you can rent the night before. That's something we do here, which I think does make it a lot easier if you have that option. And then, we definitely have a much lower price point here. I think it's about half what it costs to rent on the mountain.
The best part about renting at the mountain, right, is you drive up there, it's a one-stop shop. You're there, you don't have to worry about hauling your skis, you're not getting snow in your car, yada yada, blah blah blah. The worst part about it is you're just another cog in the machine, right? They're just pumping you through for another $1 and just trying to get you in and out. The only thing that sets us apart from anybody else is that we truly value those people that are coming in, and we want to create those relationships with the people and make them coming back. And ideally, we make them lifelong skiers or snowboarders, and then they're buying gear from us.
How do you tell good rental gear or shops from bad rental gear or shops?
So, honestly, I would trust online reviews. And then I'd say if you were really concerned about the quality of the gear, I would ask what year the gear was purchased. And then you'll have a good idea of just how fresh the boots are going to be and how nice the skis are.
What sets shops apart is how often they update their gear, right? Because technology is continuing to change, stuff gets beat up, people ride it down the roads. So like us, we try and update our snowboards every 3 years, our skis every 3 to 5 years to stay on top of it. So we have a brand new fleet of skis coming in this year, right? So does that set us apart? Hopefully.
Do you have insurance policies here, and how do they work?
We do. We do a deposit. We just have to keep a card on file. So, and that's mainly for repairs, although sometimes people do get their gear stolen at the mountain. So what we do is a $3 insurance policy, which covers all different repairs that can come up.
You can choose to buy an optional insurance for $3.
Okay.
And that will cover any sort of damages outside of obvious, I rode it down the road, I ran it over with my car type damage. It won't cover lost or stolen goods, but you hit a rock early season, you break a binding falling in the park, you lose a leash, that's all covered under that $3.
What's more important to you as a business, making money through those high selling items or rentals, or the customer satisfaction?
So we're all about the rentals and providing a good experience for people. And since we do have we have the lowest price point in town, so we try to do a lot of volume. But of course, customer service is super important.
You can't take those two away from each other. Like I need the people that want to come in and buy the really nice stuff and deck their kids out in sweet goggles. And it's, the reality is not everyone can do that, but you need it, and you're in business to make money and provide a good or a service, or in our case, both. But you can only truly do that at a high level if you're treating your employees right, who then treat those customers right. So I don't think you can draw a line between the two.
What questions do you think are the most important to consider or ask when you're out buying or renting equipment?
I would just ask, make sure that you express what level you're at and what type of skiing you're going to be doing, because then usually you can trust the tech to give you suggestions on the size of board or size of skis. Be honest with what skier type you are, just communicate so that you get the right stance for your snowboard or the right length skis and binding settings.
I don't know if there's one question that I would say is the most important, but I think keeping an open mind and an understanding that the people who are working in the shops are the professionals, that's the biggest thing. Don't fight us on it, because we'll just be on to the next person.
Thank you very much, Ollie. Hopefully I'll see you on the mountain.
All right, thanks, Kyle.
Well, Josh, thank you very much. Hope to see you on the slopes.
It was a pleasure.
All right, there you have it. That's pretty much all the information you're going to need to know about renting equipment. Make sure you do your homework, make sure you ask lots of questions, make sure you're comfy. And I'll see you on the mountain. Blah, 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 blah.